Something about the wonderful way the sun is coming up today. It's saying everything's alright. I can't believe the way I'm feeling. It's like I'm floating up and dreaming. Yeah, baby, everything's alright. Everything's alright. Oh, I know I can say it's a really good day to be alive. It's a really good day to be alive. Oh, the sky is blue, taking in the view. I know I can say it's a really good day to be alive. Strolling up and down the sidewalk, and you can see a smile when I talk. You're saying everything's alright. I got a home where I can sleep in, a bunch of friends that I believe in. Yeah, baby, everything's alright. Everything's alright. Oh, I know I can say it's a really good day to be alive. Can't help finding a way. It's a really good day to be alive. Oh, the sky is blue, taking in the view. I know I can say it's a really good day to be alive. I can see the city from my room, from my room. The watercolor sky, the day is new, day is new. There's beauty all around, it gets me high, gets me high. I'm living out this moment all the time, all the time. Oh, I know I can say it's a really good day to be alive. Can't help find a way. It's a really good day to be alive. Oh, the sky is blue, taking in the view. I know I can say it's a really good day to be alive. It's a really good day to be alive. It's a really good day to be
Welcome to the Inside Pitch. I'm Christopher Lockhart, the creator and administrator of this private Facebook group where screenwriters, creatives, filmmakers meet to ask and answer questions and exchange ideas and information on the craft and business of movie making. My fellow administrators in the group are Steve Enlow and Ramesh Santanam, who happens to be our co-host here.
Hey everyone, hey Chris. Excuse me.
Good. Up. You have that little bug that everybody's got?
No, well, I was sick last week. Yeah, I was sick last week. I'm fine now. It's just
Okay. You look very healthy.
thank you.
All right. So, any news? Anything we have to talk about?
Yeah, nothing. Let's
Okay.
It's
Good. I love that. So we're gonna get right down to business because this is a controversial topic, I guess.
It is.
I guess it is.
And it's become part of. It's here to stay, whether we like it.
I guess it is. Yeah. And it was an issue with the Writers Guild, and we can see from some of the responses there were a couple of people that wanted to burn our guest today in effigy, I think. So, but he, by the way, he is truly one of the most handsome computer geeks ever. And he's wearing a very bright sweater today. So
exactly.
Why don't you introduce
our guest? It's a short intro. Our guest is Guy Goldstein, and he is the founder and owner of WriterDuet, which is the screenwriting program. And he has now created something called, I believe, Screenplay IQ. That is an AI. That is an AI thing that does not give you feedback. It gives you script analysis. I think that's because we had talked on our page about these places that do give screenplay feedback on your script through AI. So this is different, and he's going to, I guess,
you know how I would describe it? I would describe it as it's the Cliff Notes.
Yeah.
You remember when you used to go out and get the Cliff Notes by Hamlet, and it breaks down the synopsis and the scenes and the characters.
Exactly.
But let's hear what he has to say. So,
Guy, welcome again.
Yes, we have had Guy on before, and he's muted. I'm going to unmute him, and now there he is. Creator of WriterDuet and Screenplay IQ.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Last time I was here as creator of ReadThrough as well, if you ever check that one.
That's right.
I just like creating things for writers, and sometimes writers like that I do that sometimes.
So, would you consider yourself a computer geek? I mean, are you a geek? If you're creating AI, are you kind of a geek?
The funny reason I love building this stuff so much is I actually hate technology. Technology annoys me nonstop. I don't like thinking about it. I don't like using it. And I try creating things that you don't have to think about the technology. You think about the creative part, which is what I love. Like, I was trying to be a screenwriter for many years. I still write screenplays for fun. And I want everyone to have that creative experience and not let the technology get in your way. So everything I do has that focus, because whether I'm a geek or not, most people would say yes, but it's not because I like to be.
Right. Well, I'm a really big fan of WriterDuet, as you know. I think it's great. It's a web-based writing program, and I find it really easy, very fluid. It's always there when I need it, so when we found out that you had this AI, especially after the topic that Ramesh started, we figured this would be a good opportunity for you to introduce it, but also maybe to talk a little bit about AI, how screenwriters are going to interface with it. So let me ask my first question, which is, what is AI?
Yeah, so the one people mostly are thinking about is a specific class of AI called generative AI, where it's creating something. It's creating words, it's creating images, creating music, whatever, voice technology. And that's the part that really changed in the last, couple of years. ChatGPT is like this huge example of it. And ChatGPT is specifically an LLM. That's a large language model. And the idea of that is you throw a huge number of words in there, and eventually the words start to mean something. The idea of the use case of all this technology is humans are very creative and able to build new things, and generative technology is able to sort of model some of that behavior. And I think the interesting parts of images and voice and stuff like that are really obvious. The applications of the LLMs is sometimes less obvious. And I think the LLMs are where we're really trying to take advantage of them the best with Screenplay IQ.
And so there does seem to be fear regarding AI, which I don't think is really all that unusual, right? Every time there's a new technology, or there's some kind of advancement in science, right away our imaginations start to take us to dark places. The nuclear age created Godzilla. I still haven't seen a Godzilla yet, other than in a movie screen. But cloning, when that popped up, there were all these ethical issues, and then all of these horror movies and cloning Adolf Hitler, and yet none of that has happened. But now there's AI, and there is the fear that AI is going to take over the world, or at least take over our jobs, right, Ramesh? So is there a reason to fear AI?
I think the honest answer is yes. Like, it only takes one time for Godzilla to appear to make it, all the concerns are pretty valid when the one time it happens. So I
But
think
Godzilla hasn't appeared. He hasn't appeared. We've been waiting 50, 60 years. He hasn't appeared yet.
So that one looks like we're safe from, but we don't know on
Okay.
AI because we don't know 50, 60 years where that goes exactly. And I think fear is a reasonable reaction to a lot of this stuff. It's definitely going to disrupt things, and that's, technology always does, mostly for good, sometimes not. So I think the approach is the really interesting part. Like, what are we specifically afraid of, and how do we put it in a different direction? Like, if we're afraid it's going to keep going down this path and we really don't like that, we can't just say shut off the technology. That's not going to happen. Like, too many people are invested in it, and there are too many possibilities that are really good. So we just have to direct it towards the goal we want it to be in. And so for me, if we're afraid that it'll replace writers, which I'd love to talk about why I'm not concerned about that, but I specifically want to say if we're afraid it's going to replace them, well, my job is to make writers better so they can't be replaced, so that we can make their efficiency, their creativity, we can make their entire process better, so there are more of them and they enjoy it more and they create better output.
And so how will screenwriters interface with AI in the coming years?
The easiest case, let's call Screenplay IQ as in a way I hope they will, is they will largely the writing part. Like, there are ways that it could enhance the writing process, but we're not focused on that at this point. We're really focused on what happens after you write a script. And right now, we all know kind of what happens after you write a script. It's a mix of nothing, right? You just put it in your desk and that's it. And you had a great experience, hopefully. Then there's the people who will submit it to contests and cover services, and it costs a lot of money. And the value of those can be high, but it can also be low for a lot of people. A lot of people are paying a lot of money to be told not quite, or make this one change and then maybe, and then you make the change and someone says, no, it's actually worse, because they don't really know. Well, you don't really know what's going to make a script better. I think the way that I hope that people interface with it, and the way Screenplay IQ is designed, is to empower you to understand your story a lot better, and not just what you wanted it to be, but what it is and what it came out to be, how other people are going to react to it, to help you see that in a very objective way. Instead of this one reader thought the character should be more likable, and one other reader said, I love your characters. Like, what? That's meaningless, right? What you want to know is, what are your characters? Who are they? How are they coming across? And then a person can say how they feel about how that is coming across. So I hope they'll use it to get more data. And then on the other sort of side of it, but another aspect is, I hope they will get it in front of more people, because something we've all realized is it's hard. I mean, Ramesh, you read, I think, more scripts than almost anybody else in the world. It's hard to read scripts. Some people are really great at it, like you, but other people just don't want to do that. And that includes a lot of executives, all these people who are getting a lot of material they just don't have time or interest in reading. And so one of the ways that we're trying to solve that problem is by, like you said, Cliff Notes. I have a slightly different take, but I like that as an analogy. It's a close one. We're making them a more compelling format. So if you can condense a 120-page script into an accurate and meaningful, 3.5-minute video pitch, someone's going to watch that video pitch who wouldn't read your screenplay. And they're going to either say, yeah, not for me, in which case, great. They can watch 10 more pitches and see which one is for them, or 20 more, 100 more. And the people who do think it's interesting can then kind of go from there to say, oh, well, now this pitch was kind of interesting. What's the synopsis? And they can read the synopsis. Oh, this is actually kind of cool. Who are the characters? And they learn about the characters. And at some point they say, well, this actually seems great. I don't even know that they're going to read the script at that point. I think at that point, hopefully, they're going to talk to the writer and they're going to build some kind of relationship. And that's probably the way that most films will get made eventually. I don't think that the screenplay will be the foundational piece. I think all these other things will be the foundational piece about the screenplay, based on the screenplay, and then the screenplay will ultimately be the blueprint to make the movie.
Interesting. And so before we deep dive into what you're doing, have you looked at some of the other AI programs that analyze scripts? Like I gave Greenlight a like a run through, and just to see what I thought, and is this gonna put us out of work? And so what's the difference?
So I will not speak of any specific ones for both legal and practical reasons, but in general,
I can talk about. I'll talk about them specifically.
Yeah, you can, and maybe I'll ask your opinion. But I'll tell you that most of them, if not all of the other ones that I'm aware of, that are coming across people's desks at this point, or Facebook ads or whatever, they seem like, from an outside perspective, to be extremely basic. That is the perspective I have. These are all opinions. You can look at their output, what they're generating, and it is a lot like the output. And I know because I've done this. You get, if you essentially copy and paste your screenplay into the equivalent of ChatGPT and just ask a bunch of questions. And the reason that process isn't interesting is because they're basically, AIs are essentially simulating humans, right? That's the idea of how they're supposed to behave. And they're just not very good at it, right? You're asking them for qualitative opinions, but they don't have any. They don't know anything. They don't have reasons for things. So when they spit out answers like, oh, your characters could use more backstory, they're just saying something a human could say. And it could probably true, like most characters could use more backstory, but if they don't need more backstory, then it's saying something silly, but sometimes they do. It could say, hey, the pacing of your screenplay slows down in the second act. Sure, maybe it does, but maybe it doesn't. And maybe the whole problem is your story isn't one that should be told, or the way that you're telling it is uncompelling in a very different way. And so they ask for score. A lot of them do scores. They do numbers. And you can test this and see this. If you put in scripts and you ask, give me a score 1 to 10, the number you're going to get almost, very statistically high number of times is 7, just because that's what a human reasonably could say. And you'll see 6s and 8s, and you'll see some outliers of 5s and 9s. You're just not going to see very many 4s or 3s and 10s, because people, and also, by the way, AIs are trying to be nice. They're kind of trained to be nice. So if you ask for these subjective opinions, you can feel really good or bad or whatever you want about what they're saying, but it's sort of irrelevant because they're just simulating what a human could say. They're not saying anything that's true. And you can be impressed by, oh, they kind of understood my story. Well, they sort of do, but not in a meaningful way. They're just pulling things out. And if you had some cool thing they missed, they missed it. If your story is so basic that they can understand it perfectly, okay, but it's a kind of a coincidence. Ours is not that. If you're interested in how ours works, I'll just quickly tell you why it's different. Ours is largely not looking at your entire screenplay. It's trying to break it down into literally thousands of components and strip out what each piece is and put the pieces all back together in a very objective way, because that's what LLMs also are really good at. Most people just don't bother because it's a lot of work.
And so are these programs, are they using our scripts to train their AI?
So they should all state this. We state that we do not, and all of our LLM partners do not. So it is explicitly, thing. If they don't state that, I think you can infer they might be. I'm not claiming they are, but they should say whether or not they are. And the general rule of thumb is they don't have to. Like, there's no reason they should be. If they are, it's actually kind of weird. Because there's so much data already out there, and there's certainly an ethical question of should they have, the open AIs and all those people have had access to that data originally, but they did, and their lawsuit's pending, and we'll see where that goes. But the general basic thesis is there's already so much content out there. Training on your script is irrelevant at this point.
Oh, interesting. I saw people kind of making accusations, pointing their fingers at AI and saying, like it's going to steal our ideas. But can't Ramesh, can he steal ideas too? Right, Ramesh? Not that you would, but so it's like what's the difference? Like why would somebody trust a human reader over an AI reader? I think I would probably trust an AI reader long before I would trust a human reader.
In terms of stealing, it's absolutely, because the human is actually much better at stealing. The human is both understands your story much better, is much more creative, and can come up with different enough twists that are actually, they can see the flaws in your story and say, oh, you know what, I'd write it this other way. And they can actually make a very different content, but it's based on you. So, I'm not saying you should be scared of Ramesh. I'm not. Ramesh seems delightful. But
Ramesh is actually very scary. He's very scary.
But I think, I'm not scared. Really, there are stories. We all hear the stories of a writer to get their work stolen, but those are kind of edge cases, and they're not the thing that I would be worried about with AI. With AI, I'd be more worried about it sends you down a waste of time path. That's what I would worry about when you're sending to these. I mean, that same thing again for some human readers. Like, you submit to an unnamed company that does reviews, and they give you should change the dialogue is this or whatever, and you go fix it, and your story isn't any better. In fact, sometimes it's worse, because kind of going back to what I think AI will help with, actually, the biggest thing I think AI will help with is seeing what is unique and interesting about your story with no bias of, I just don't like that kind of story. Like, you happen to hand it to a reader, just doesn't like whatever thing you did. And you know this much better than I do, the things that make movies or TVs or whatever in Hollywood is something unique and beautiful about them that isn't the same as all the other things that are getting made. Sometimes it is the same, but often it isn't. And especially with needing more and more content on all these platforms, what is unique about your story is much more interesting than what is the same about your story. And I think AI is better suited to identify that and appreciate with quotes, right, that unique quality than some humans are. So just a stealing, I don't really think that's a concern. In terms of wasting your time, pretty big concern.
All right, somebody commented, but a human has a reputation to uphold and AI doesn't care. If a human consultant started stealing ideas, they wouldn't be in the biz very long.
I mean, I've been in the biz for 11 years with WriterDuet, so I have a pretty good reputation, I guess, personally. And I care about having a reputation 11 years from now, too. So just as an example, I know I don't, again, speak to anybody else in the industry, but I think that with AI, AI isn't going to steal your idea. The AI doesn't care, and the AI has no opinions or interest, and the AI does not want a career in movies, right? But the people behind the AI could have an agenda.
So it's the humans again. We go back to the humans.
And people in beautiful blue, bright sweaters don't steal things, right?
Certainly not. I think Meryl Streep calls that color cerulean, doesn't she? From The Devil Wears Prada? No, I don't know. Anyway. Yes.
Doesn't AI tap into any data that is already on the internet and therefore basing its analysis of screenplays on what's already been produced?
It is, like, to some degree, right? So the scraping of data is, like, certainly happened. There's huge data sets. It's anything on the internet. It's everything, these other things. By now, they're actually training the AIs on other content from AIs, right? It's called synthetic data. And so they're just getting farther out of the meta of what's being trained on what. But yes, they are certainly being trained on the content that's out there already. And that does lead to, you can actually be concerned that it leads to, like, let's call it prescriptive storytelling, because it's based on everything that existed. And that's, again, not to say what other people are doing, but what we are doing is breaking things away from, do you follow the same storyline or whatever, and we instead try to understand what you are doing. And there is enough uniqueness to each story that AI can be directed at finding those unique patterns, rather than just saying, does this fit in, Save the Cat or whatever. Like, that's a way to do it, but that's not what AI inherently does.
Yeah, like with some of the other AIs that I tried, I just found sometimes that the feedback was a little misguided, especially if you did like the free, like, first 5-page thing, which I think was super ineffective. Like, you have a grocery checker, right, who says to the main character, have a nice day. And then the feedback literally is, we should know more about the grocery checker. Perhaps you should fill out her backstory. Yeah. And I'm just like, oh.
Yeah. Not to be, again, critical of anyone specific, because you know what I'm trying not to do. But I've seen the output from a lot of them. And when
Yeah.
I look at them, I instantly can tell how they got that output because that was like the first thing I tried when I was playing around. I'm like, oh, can you do this? Oh, that's interesting. It says this. And then I noticed it does very similar things when I try 10 different screenplays. And you can like again, I won't say which ones. One of them I saw had a screenplay analysis at one point of a Oscar-winning screenplay as their example, and they had to give it a score. They didn't, they pretend that they don't know if it's an Oscar-winning, but of course the person who uploaded it knew. But whatever, the AI probably doesn't know to a degree. And they gave it like an 8. It's an Oscar-winning screenplay. I'm like, oh, okay. And then some, person on the internet also gets an 8 because a little bit outline. And another one, it's a produced movie, got a 7. I'm like, so
Right.
how do these mean anything?
Right. However, though, the script itself could be an 8, right? And then with the actors and the director, it kind of bumps the whole thing up to a 10. The actual film experience. I always say that when I'm reading a script, I'm basically looking for a 7. That's all I need. All I need is a 7, because if I get a 7 with Denzel Washington and some A-list director, the movie, ends up as a 9 or a 10.
That's true. And I'll say the 7 from the AI is not what you're looking for. You're looking for a human 7. Like the human, I am a, career person at the, I being you in this example, I have a career person at this and I know what good is. And what I think is really important about the AI stuff and the objective nature of it is you kind of know what you're looking for. You know what your actors are looking for. You know what archetypes they fit into really well. You know what stories they want to tell. You know that you want them to have some emotional parts and some punchy parts and some cool, whatever those things are. And it actually might, in some cases, you might be happy with a 6. You might be happy with a 5 if it has those moments because you can rewrite it. You can hire another writer. You can do all these things. So going back to the uniqueness, that's what AI can get us cut through, right? If you can cut through 1,000 or 10,000 screenplays very quickly to find the ones that could match your talent, and not waste your time on the ones that aren't a good, even though they're a great screenplay, just aren't a good fit for you. You're going to spend a lot more time on the ones that could be, and then maybe you'll pick one that's not that great a script, but has some interesting stuff about it, and someone's writing career will be made because of that, even though they didn't score a 7 or an 8 on whatever service.
Right. I just read the remake of Highlander, and it's like when you look at the origin story of how the original one was made, it was like a UCLA student. He had the script, but it eventually blossomed into something that was not his vision. But he's made a lot of money off of it over the years, because it's spawned a lot of sequels and it spawned a TV show. But somebody saw that original script and saw the movie in there. So maybe they read that original script and thought it was a 4, but they knew that maybe they could get it to a 6. And then with good actors and a director and a big budget, which I don't think they had all of those things, or maybe none of those things. But yeah, there's a lot of factors beside the script that can make for a good film.
And I'm not just quickly saying good film to every audience is different. Like there are a lot of B movies that people love, right? Like I wouldn't say they're good movies even. They're not good acting, they're not good whatever, but people love them. And know your audience, right? And that's when the Netflix and all these people, they know their audience. That's what they know well. And they know to pick this one niche thing that's gonna be for this one segment. And I really do expect that's gonna proliferate. I think there's gonna be so much more content for a very narrow but important audience, and that's great because that audience deserves to see what they want to see. They don't all have to see the big blockbuster Marvel movie. Like that. Right. I like Marvel movies, but not everyone wants to.
Right. Agreed. So a lot of people are asking questions about your new platform. So why don't we start to talk about that? A lot of people are interested in the pitch video. There's a lot of questions about that. So why don't start wherever you need to start to tell us, educate us what it's about and how it's going to help writers and help make their screenplays better.
Yeah, and I would love your opinion on this because you've actually seen these pitch videos, and then I think I hope you
We
like some
both
of them.
have.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, great. So I'll give you the idea of the pitch videos just to kind of make sure everyone's on the same page. We take your 120 or 30-minute, whatever the length of TV pilots work well too. We put it all in there, and we try to kind of figure out what it is, right? Like, is this a character driven, whatever thing? Is it, and we don't label what those things are, but we're trying to let the AI through a series of literally thousands of questions, try to figure out who the characters are, why they're doing what they're doing. We put this all together. And the pitch is actually one of the last steps we do because you can, by the way, just to mention this in our process, you can actually stop at any level. Like you can say, all I want is the log line and the 4 main story points. One of the things we do, like a header banner image we give you, and you can stop and you can pay very, very little money. And then you can say, oh, well, I'd also like to get a synopsis. You can either add them on or decide at the beginning you want to get all these things. And each one, it's kind of building more intelligence. And never, I think literally never what you see is actually what the AI was doing, because the AI is doing so much of just kind of figuring things out that we never even bother presenting because it's too many details. It would be, 1,000 pages of reading to actually see everything the AI produces. But we take each of those and produce other things that eventually lead to what the audience, the viewer sees. And so by the time we get to the pitch video, we know your characters extremely well. We know your story extremely well. We know why you're telling. We know the audience. We know the intended feeling the story is going to have. And then we try to tonally make something that matches that. We try to kind of set it up with some descriptive words like, this is a feature film about justice and this character's path to whatever. And then you kind of meet who the characters are. You tell a little about their story. We kind of go back and forth between thematic stuff. It's not a trailer, but it's more like a trailer than a synopsis because it kind of gives you the vibe of the story without revealing every single detail of it. And it's trying to tell you how the audience is going to feel at different times and why they're going to feel that way. Because that's what a pitch is, right? A pitch isn't meant to be this happens, this happens, this happens. It's why does it happen? Why is the audience here? And it's got images, like it's got, so I should tell you literally it's a video, right? But it's a video without animation. So it's still images with voiceover and the text on the screen that switches to another still image that's sort of capturing a moment in the script with some voiceover that's kind of not telling you what's happening at that moment. It's just for technical reasons, I'll tell you. It generates the pitch first, and then it finds moments in the screenplay that match what the pitch is telling about, because that's a more storytelling-esque way of doing it rather than.
and just to sort of help our members visualize it, for a lack of a better term, it's like a slideshow, for lack of a better term, and it has created avatars for the characters that I think, it does a pretty good job of, I think that's really what this character would look like. And then it takes it through just as a pitch. So it's not giving you the beginning, middle, and end. It's talking a little bit about the story, a little bit about sort of the theme and the subtext, as a way to entice. This is a story that will, bring you to tears, or it's not that hokey, but you get the idea. And they're about 3 minutes, maybe 3.5 minutes. I thought it was fun. I was like, wow, this is fun.
I thought, I mean, for the record, Chris and I both fed it 2 scripts each of our own. And we got the feedback.
I gave it.
Oh, you gave it full. Okay.
I gave a few extras. Yeah.
Okay. So, and I thought the videos were interesting. This is just me personally. I thought they were a little too laudatory because the video made me feel like I had written for the heist script. I felt like I had written the next Rififi. I was like, makes me sound like a genius. So there's that. But what I found interesting was in the character breakdowns, you have AI generated images that look remarkably like real people. And I think that can help writers when they're putting together their pitch decks, because when I was looking at the characters, I was like, oh, wow, I never would have thought of that actress for this role. And so if you're putting together a pitch deck, you could use that to sort of, then grab a screen capture of her from somewhere for your pitch deck. So I thought that part of it was interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We actually, one of the things we don't expose, but we probably should, is we actually essentially cast your script, because we're looking through, we understand your character, their archetype. We look for people who played similar roles and, proper age and stuff like that. So we're actually kind of doing that in the background to figure out, oh, this is a Denzel type. If I have a script like that, I'll let you know. And they do, we try to kind of match that in a way. It's not trying to say this is Denzel Washington, but it's a person who has that vibe, has that characteristic. To kind of point, I was like you said, and they want to make this point because I think it's really important. Because we're not trying to subjectively score your script, what we're always trying to do is say, what is your script trying to be? And the pitch is an example of that, where it might be, let's go a little bit over laudatory of it, but it is certainly trying to see it for its best version of itself. Now, the synopsis is straight. The synopsis is, this is what happens. The character analysis is straight. These are the character that go through these things. The pitch is saying, if you're interested in the next, X movie, this is kind of in that vein. This is it. And the reason we do it that way is we don't know if it's good or not. That's not our call. We're trying to present it in the way that the person wants it presented and sees it going. And then the person who's receiving this pitch, or the producer, whoever, gets to say, okay, that's the kind of thing I wish I were doing, like we just talked about before. And maybe this is well executed, maybe it's not. I'll read on to find out that question. But from the pitch, I get it. I get, is this the kind of thing I'm trying to make? If we pitch it completely wrong, like it's a comedy, and we pitch it like this serious drama, then you don't even know if even if it sounds like a brilliant serious drama, you're not going to be the right person for it.
Okay, so here's what I want to do, because obviously the three of us know exactly what this is all about because we've seen it, but our members don't. So I want you to help them visualize it. And can you also just talk about, because you said that there's different things that they can do, there's different platforms, I'm assuming different price points. I don't know if you want to discuss that, but
sure.
I think we should. But why don't you let's just start with what it is that we got, because that's like the great big whammy, right?
Yeah. Do you mind if is it cool if I present? I won't show your scripts. I'll show a different one that I have here. Is
show whatever you can. Yeah.
Yeah, and that way I'll just talk people through it. Let's see if I can share my screen on this.
Okay,
I hope it doesn't make me share screen.
I don't know how that works.
Let's find out together. I got a window. Let's see if it lets me do this window I have here. I'm gonna share it, and then my face goes away.
Oh, look at this.
Look at this technology.
Wow.
Okay. So I'll kind of walk through each phase of it, and I'll kind of describe what you can get. I'll maybe a little talk about price points. So this is Palm Springs. It's a less known movie. I kind of try to pick less known ones so we don't think it's fake.
Less known. This movie sold for a lot of money at Sundance.
It's a wonderful. I've never seen it, but actually it's funny. I've never seen this movie, but I completely know this movie from reading the analysis of it and reading everything about it a couple times. So it comes up with a log line. And again, I haven't seen it, but I got to get it from the log line. So this first whole section here with the images, with some comps that it does. And
what are the comps?
I actually love this. It doesn't know that it's a produced movie that it's reading. It doesn't know this actually Palm Springs, so it usually finds itself as a comp. It's a pretty good sign that it's working well. And then Groundhog Day and About Time, some other time travel romance movies came up. And so this whole section and these, we call them story points, are what really pop out in the first thing. And this, we literally just give the price point, and we're going to offer some big discounts to you guys here. But
big discounts.
Big discounts. Everything from here up.
The prices are insane.
We charge
and if you act right now,
essentially 4 cents per page is our kind of price point for that. So there's like a 30 minutes, like $1.20. If it's 120 pages, it's like $5 ish. And again, big discounts. But anyway, so we do all that relatively cheap because that's just like the first set of analyses. And then we kind of keep going, right? The next section and the order of operation, you can kind of decide if you want something different, but you can reorganize this. But you get a synopsis, and it's pretty long and thorough. This is also unlike the other services I've seen, where they tend to just, in my opinion, my guess is they just throw it into ChatGPT and like, write a synopsis, essentially, something like that. This is not that. This is a very detailed flow, and it's Chris actually even called out, like, it'll occasionally do little things like, oh, the same sentence got repeated, like there are little things like that, but all in all, it's a very accurate synopsis from the ones I've seen. It even did something cute that, can I tell that story? I won't tell the exact example, but
sure, go ahead.
Sometimes it notices things that are secrets in the beginning, and it's so smart that it figures out what the secret is, and it reveals it too early. We have to fix that.
Yeah, I thought like I was really impressed because I was like, it's got hindsight in some ways, you know, but yet you don't want that secret revealed in the synopsis at that point, probably. Right.
Yeah, but it handles things like handles things with time jumps and all this stuff. It kind of explains it all really well, usually, or mixed identities. So a long synopsis, and then you also get the structural breakdown. So it's like highlights of some sort of act breakdowns. And if it's a TV, it'll use the actual act breaks. If it's a feature, it kind of just puts it in some acts. And you can do this by, like I said, you can do it by acts, the sequences of it. So if you want to see what are my sort of main points in the timeline and pages, or you can even just go through all the scenes. And this is a quick way to re-outline your script. If you're looking at it like pacing wise or trying to see if you can cut some stuff, this helps you find where you can do that. And then I'll say everything from here up. We just added a run, so each thing is additive. The first thing was essentially, 4 cents per page. This is essentially 15 additional cents per page. Kind of give you a thing. So again, if you just want your structure and story and those first things, you're paying like 19 cents per page. So it's like 20 something bucks for a feature, whatever. Then you get into characters. And this is like actually my favorite part, even though pitch is maybe the coolest part, because the characters are the ones that are hardest to understand, especially of your own work, because you have a vision for who the characters are. You had in your head who the characters will be, and you don't know if they actually come across the way you wanted them to. And it's hard to know that. It's hard for another person to tell you, but we analyze all their dialogue, every single scene they're in, how they're feeling in every scene, why they feel that way, how they change. And with all that identification, we come up with these, and you can kind of see these. I don't know this movie again, but I can tell that this character is like, this one's coming off silly and charismatic, where it's a little silly, but it's more rebellious and brave rather than being charismatic, versus this character's not brave at all. This one comes with the curious score. This one comes with the easygoing score. And so I can tell these are different people. And that's actually something I think a weakness of a lot of writers is they tend to write a lot like themselves. And so the characters, even though you think they're different people, kind of come up the same. Sorry, kind of come up the same. And that's something that reflects here. And I'll kind of break down one of the characters here. You can really dive into who they are. We can see their emotional journey, like what scene they're in and how they're feeling. So you can see that a story has the ups and the downs and the ups, and this is a kind of traditional act structure where it shows the big middle point and whatever, but it doesn't have to be this way. It just happens.
Can you read some of those words? Because unfortunately, I can't make this any bigger. I tried to, but
that's okay. Well, just kind of, can you see the visuals, like the ups and the downs, like that's apparent on the screen?
Yes.
Yeah. So like in here, just showing like on page 11, Niles is visibly hurt by witnessing the betrayal, and then he has this big collapse down to his like low point where he's being attacked or something in this movie. So I don't know, the words are, a lot of words. If you're the writer, this stuff I think is really interesting because you can see, for example, I'm not going to be prescriptive and say this movie should change. Obviously, this is probably a successful movie, but between 13 and 45-ish, this character has having a lousy time, right? And sometimes you might say, oh, this is going to be really depressing to watch this character suffering this much. I'm going to give them a bump. I'm going to find something, not artificial, but I'm going to find some way to give them a little of a win in the middle here. And then I'm going to collapse them back. Because, that's a thing you might think, or you might think this is exactly what I intended, where the character is having this really rough go of it for 30 minutes on the screen. And then what it does here, I'll say this actually maybe is my favorite part. This one my favorite. It tells you a character-specific synopsis. And the reason we do this for the main character, that's a lot like the synopsis, but it does this for every character, including like the antagonist. And we always look at it as, if this were the antagonist movie, what would this movie be? And it lets every character kind of be the hero of their own story. And that's something I, as an audience member, look for. I look for, is the character real? Do they not just serve as a prop to the rest of the characters or the rest of the storyline? And you can actually read why this character personally feels like this movie exists, which I enjoy a lot. So I'll jump ahead so I can show everything. But like all the characters, even all the sort of minor characters, and then it does this assessment section. This is the most subjective, and I would argue in some ways the least valuable, but we do it for a reason, section. It's trying to give you a high level feeling behind it, and the assessment stuff is not ever saying good or bad, because we don't think in terms of that, but it's sort of saying this is a relatively unique story. And these are a little more subjective, but they're still not good or bad things. Some conventional stories are amazing. This is dialogue driven versus action driven. There's more character than plot. And you can see how far in the scales, and it kind of explains why it's each of these things. So it breaks it down. So it is useful. It's not my favorite part just because there's so many other great things we do, but I think this is still pretty valuable. I'm never going to,
one of the writers that I shared the report with, he actually liked this and he liked the idea that it was a sliding scale, because he could then not using a number per se, but just, yeah, you know, something, maybe I'd like to slide that dot over just a little bit more, and that's in this direction or in that direction. And also a producer could look at that very, very quickly and just see, you know, where that dot falls.
Yes, and it is, and this is a type of movie, right? You can tell it's a unique, dialogue-driven, character-driven, somewhat complex. If we look down, surprising, got rich narrative. It's a certain kind of movie. You can just tell from looking at these numbers. You can get kind of what it is. And again, that might be for you, and it might not be for you, but it speeds it up. And if that wasn't your intent, if you're like, no, this is supposed to be really intellectual, well, you should go back and think about why it's not coming across that way, why it's coming across as a little more emotional. So yeah, I agree now. Now I love it again. And then the vision section, so here, this I won't play it because it's hard to watch exactly, but maybe I'll just pop it and I'll hit pause. I hope the audio doesn't start coming through because that would be annoying. And I'll just give you an idea. It has a voiceover of everything, but it's showing these images that it's generating that kind of capture something about the characters and something about the time period. And it's trying to carry them through. And like you can see, it's not 100% on showing them the same in every picture, but it usually captures a lot about them, like the outfit they're wearing, like her tattoo style and things like that. So it'll keep them fairly consistent. And that's only going to get better to be very consistent. And it's telling you this story, like why and how and what's going on without being a synopsis of it. And it's I don't know. I think it's pretty engaging. It's a pitch. And then just kind of scrolling. There could be one more thing here. I only ran it on a few scripts, but we do a full table read as well. That one will eventually be my favorite feature. It isn't quite yet because I have some things I want to do there, but that's like a background images and talking heads and voiceover of different voices for every character. And then proofread, which, you know, helps you find some things. It's not just it does grammar and spelling, but then it gets into, hey, this sentence is really confusing. You know, sometimes people open with, actually, Chris, you had some thoughts, I think, on that. Do you remember any thoughts on proofread?
I like proofread only because it took you right to the script, you know, so it wasn't just, like you go right to the script and it shows you exactly what it's talking about, and you can either blow it off or you can make the change. I thought that was really helpful.
Yeah, I did. The only sort of, I did like the proofread part of it. Even in the synopsis part, what I liked was the script, the heist script I sent you. Way down as I was reading it, it had a character name, and I was like, oh, wow, I have read this script 50 times, and I had changed the character's name, but forgotten in one line to change it, and it caught it. And I was like, who the hell is Ben? And then I realized that, and I've read that script so many times, so it caught that. As for the proofread, I do notice that it's sort of like, you know, I write, when I say a character is late 30s, I put 30S, and it changed it to, you know, it spelled out 30s. And, you know, like I spell Grey, Grey, the way the good Lord intended it to be spelled. But, you know, it said, you know, Gray. So there are things like that in there. But yeah, you can choose to ignore it.
You just move on.
Right.
Yeah.
But I like that part. And I did like in the synopsis was detailed enough. But then it sort of, I caught that, you know, I've read the script so many times that I haven't.
Right.
Yeah. The proofread also like that it'll catch logic errors too. It'll even catch like, hey, you said this was a night scene, but then you describe a daytime scene because you forgot to update your slug line or whatever. So it'll do quite things like that.
Right. Guy, I don't know if you can see there's a rolling questions. I don't know if you can see that chat. You might, I don't know what your screen looks like. It's comments, and maybe you can just click on that, and maybe you can see some things. Lori asked if you're using real actors for your table reads, or is it AI generated?
AI generated. So we eventually will let you replace the voices actually, but we're using the highest quality ones on the internet we can find, and they're pretty realistic. They have emotion, they have some depth to them.
I did notice
they're not as good as an actor by any means, and in some ways that's a good thing because you don't want to be prescriptive and only hear it one specific way. You want it with a little less acting and a little more just, hey, it's clear, I can understand what's happening, I can follow that voice is different than this other voice. I'll just kind of comment. I want to say this because someone commented, I don't trust AI to pick up the emotion or sarcasm. I would have agreed with you until I saw it do it consistently. So I have not had the experience where it doesn't get it. I'm sure there are examples where it won't, but there are examples where humans won't.
It didn't get it on my synopsis.
Okay.
Right.
That's fair.
There is one line in my script that is meant as a joke. And if you read the synopsis, it reads it seriously. It
Mm,
comes off as a serious note,
got it.
a
So yeah,
serious line. So,
so it definitely can,
yeah.
but I think it has about the same margin of error as a human does, where
So,
sometimes a human might not get it if you don't put, joking next to the
Yeah,
line or
sure, of
sarcastic,
course.
and it gets in a lot of cases. I think, as an example, I had for my own script I put through it, where it comments that this one character is really sarcastic, and it just knows he is because that's how he talks. And
Somebody wrote to you, Guy, cool. So you're putting readers and actors out of work. Nice.
but not writers. No, I'm just kidding. So let me kind of opine on this. So the real thing is, this is not meant to be an actor replacement because it can't be. The acting, it's actually farther from replacing. I think it's nowhere near replacing writers, and it's farther from replacing actors. What it is doing is something that you actually can't do. Like most individual writers can't find 20 actors to get in a room and perform their script. And if you can, go do that. Go get those 20 actors.
But wait a second. But if they could, they wouldn't fucking pay him, right? They wouldn't pay him. But yet, here's this guy saying, "Oh, you're going to put actors out of work, but they're not going to pay him." Come
I
on,
agree.
give me a break.
So I think that really the reader one I actually want to comment on because Chris actually made this kind of joke as well. I think what is going to happen, we know this.
That wasn't a joke, but I
It wasn't a joke.
joking about that.
It will change how scripts get read inevitably. In fact, it already has. Like our software is already being used by some places, other people's software being used. And the reason it's, I think, a good thing, with some people having different opinions, is the people with genuine talent and understanding of story, like Chris and Ramesh, are going to still have their human insights available. What we're going to get rid of is the people who are just being hired to be part of a machine, who we don't really want their opinions. We just want them to summarize the thing so an executive doesn't have to read a 120-page script. And they're not even going to summarize it that well. The AI probably will summarize better than a lot of them. But they have a fake job almost. It's a real, maybe they get paid. I hope they get paid at this point, but it's not something that's going to really lead them anywhere because they're just being hired to fill a machine cog. What it's going to expose is more time for the people who are genuinely good. So if you could read a script and read this analysis and have, first of all, maybe you do need to turn the synopsis. Well, cool. You take this 2,500 word synopsis we wrote, you edit out the mistakes where it didn't understand sarcasm that you as a human know, you just saved, 30 minutes to an hour probably writing that and maybe, maybe more. And you get to focus on the story points. You can say, I knew there was something a little off in the second act. Let me go jump into the character thing. Oh yeah, this character was kind of flat for about 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Yeah, I think they should have something here. And you get to use your creative decision-making to be a power reader. And I think that's where we wind up, where the best people can do 10x
Power
more.
reader. Wow. Ramesh, you're a power reader.
that's what I am. Yeah. I have to power read a bunch of scripts today.
And I hope this makes your life better. So I hope, Ramesh, you personally, I hope you'll write to me and tell me that you had a better experience reading the scripts because you could sort of amplify them in this way.
Do we have questions, Ramesh? We must.
Yeah, we do.
Can you go into just a little bit about you kind of made it sound like it's a steakhouse, and like I can get everything a la carte. So the thing that you did for us, what would that cost?
I think you got the full eval plus pitches. Let me give you the exact number. It would be, carry the two. I think it would be, the list price would be like 68 cents per page, maybe, of everything that you guys got, which is a little more than that's proofread. So maybe like the 70 something cents per page. So if we're on a feature script, that would be like, $70, $80, whatever range. But that's list price. And I'll just mention all the discounts we have. So we already actually discount it for, like, if you buy over a certain amount, you get like 20% off anyway, or 10% off or whatever. But then this group is going to get a 50% discount on everything. I'm just going to use that promo code. So you would actually have been paying like, $30, $35, $40 in that range for the full one, which I don't think very many people need initially. I think mostly you start with a focus. Like if you're going to do the a la carte thing, you wrote a feature. If it's your first draft, you kind of, I want to see if my structure came out well. I want to look at the beats. I want to make sure I thought it through really well. Oh, that's weird that I put that scene there. Those kind of passes versus you doing a character pass versus you're at a final stages. then maybe you need the full pitch and stuff like that. So you can always play around when you want to pay the $35 versus when you want to pay $5.
And you're going to give everybody here a code today or something?
Yeah, I got a promo code for you guys.
All right, so stick around. Don't leave yet. Very good question here. What's the copyright on the pitch video if you want to share it on social media?
So everything is I'll state it the way that I understand it. We own nothing. So certainly we own nothing. The AI companies own nothing. They're just generating, it's licensed to you. Technically, the legal aspect says AI images and text can't be copyrighted because it's not a human creation. That's like a legal thing that's going on right now. So it's kind of arguable there is no copyright on the exact image that they generated. But if there were, it would be yours. And certainly you're allowed to use it however you want. It's just a question, could someone else take that image and do something with it? Maybe, but it's just the image. They can't suddenly get your script or anything like that.
Right. Okay, good. Anything, Ramesh? I'm seeing a lot of things.
Eve wants to know, can you add it on to one's current WriterDuet subscription, or is it totally separate?
Okay, so good news. So since I'm WriterDuet, I'll mention all this stuff. It's the same account. So if you already have a WriterDuet account, you just sign in with the same email and password. You can make a new one with a different email, but you can link them. They are not linked products, though. It's not like you can send a script directly from WriterDuet or edit it from Screenplay IQ or whatever. And there's no subscription overlap, although just to let you know, if you weren't on this call, but you were WriterDuet user, you'd probably wind up getting a discount too. The general thesis of this is you're doing this independent of the writing process, so we keep them as relatively separate products. One is for writing, one is for analysis.
Okay. Can you pull Laurie wants to know, can you pull the pitch into Photoshop and alter it to copyright it?
The truth is, again, it's kind of, I don't know. There's a lot of legal question about that. I think if it's a sufficient alteration, the answer is probably yes for the images. It might turn out that like there's some European laws said actually you can copyright AI images if there was human direction to them, and so it's kind of a mix. But the answer is do enough editing, and yes, it probably doesn't matter because probably the image isn't so unique anyway. Like it's probably not the perfect image anyway. So I would just say, it is what it is. You throw it up, you show it to people who are interested, and don't assume the value is any higher than that, and don't worry about the copyright. Is my opinion.
With pay-to-play companies like Visual Pitch Fest and Screencraft, where does this fit in? What's the go-to market strategy to get these seen?
Yeah, so great question, and I have a lot of thoughts on the pay-to-play industry. Not favorable. So my opinion is when you are paying for something, you should always be getting something immediately of value right away, right? So when we're doing this analysis, we're not doing this analysis so you can then make money. We're doing this analysis so it helps you as a writer. If you're presenting it to someone that creates a pitch, it's helping you create the pitch. So we're not doing the thing where you can pay an extra $50 and we'll show it to our, assistant reader at some company who will say, no, I pass, and then we'll tell you got to pass. So we're not doing anything like that, which I think is not good for the industry. I hope that the way this goes is because these are so much more consumable, these 3.5-minute whatever pitches and other things like that, that you can just like post it on social media and your friends can say, oh, that's really cool and or whatever. And then maybe they share it and one of their friends happens to be an assistant at CAA or at WME or whatever. And that person's like, oh, this is kind of cool. Hey, this writer, there's something there. And then they talk to you. So I'm hoping that it goes back to what should be, which is human connections and networking and stuff like that. And we get rid of this concept of gatekeepers because they're not really gatekeepers because they don't actually work because they basically don't really work. They sometimes do. They work enough that they can point out the 3 times or 20 times they worked. But as a whole, the gatekeeper industry is a proxy for what Hollywood actually is. What Hollywood actually is run by a lot of connections and networking and hard work and being a great writer. And I think these will make it more likely that people who are great writers and who can produce good content and can network and can find viewers will actually get seen by the people who matter. That's the hope.
Well, I just wanted to say, Ramesh, is that the thing that I thought was really useful about what I got was that you don't have to share that entire document with somebody, and maybe I wouldn't. But but you can take things out of it. So like somebody's asking, am I allowed to use the AI generated synopsis to send to producers? I would say, of course.
Yeah.
That's what you're paying for. Absolutely. Right. So that takes the work out of it. And again, you might want to go over the synopsis yourself and maybe tweak it or make it shorter or make it longer, or just use it as is. But or if anybody wants to know about your character, you could just literally take the analysis of the character, just cut and paste it, and it's pretty accurate, and also I think in some ways, what one of my writer friends said about it was that it put into words things that I couldn't because I was too close to it. So the way it would describe the character or a particular situation, he thought was really effective and very illuminating for him because of this. And this guy's like this crusty WGA writer, and he really loved it. Like he thought overall it was really great, and especially great for marketing. And so, like for example, if you were going to go to the AFM, and you were going to try to market your movie Palm Springs, like bringing that thing maybe there, that could be really, really helpful to help you communicate your characters and your story. Because there's nothing worse than when you ask somebody, a writer, to tell you about their characters and they just start to ramble and they're all over the place because, they're excited about different aspects. And here it's all sort of crystallized for you and really sort of made very, very digestible. So there is a lot of stuff in there that can be used and shared with others. And again, like it gives you a log line. If you don't think the log line is perfect for you, then you can tweak it. But it like really puts you like, right in the ballpark, like exactly where you need to be.
It does. The only issue I had with the log line on one of the scripts I sent was that it essentially it sort of gave away a big reveal in the second act. Yeah. In the log line, and I was like, no.
Well, the green light did the same thing too. And my approach to log lines is first act information only, because in the first act, everything is revealed that we need to understand the story. Who's the protagonist? What does the protagonist want? And what stands in the protagonist's way? We don't need to know if the protagonist gets what they want in the log line. In fact, I would suggest don't do that. And that's why that's my approach, because you don't want to tell somebody, then they don't have to read the script.
Right.
Yeah. The actual, the intention of it, the second act reveal is an interesting one. Maybe I'll have to put in. The intention is it never should reveal the ending. Like there's code in there that is supposed to prevent that. And I guess it was slightly too early for that to fall under the ending, but maybe there should be something there, never reveal a significant twist, which might
be it is. It's because it sort of, if you read the log line for it sort of uses that reveal as the inciting incident for my protagonist's action, when it actually is something else much earlier. Yeah. So that was the only thing I had. Sarit wants to know whether this can be used for prose manuscripts.
So it actually can't. So I'll kind of describe. We do ingest novels. That's one of the options. Okay. And the way that it works is it reframes the novel as if it were a screenplay. I believe it's always feature, although eventually we'll let you check a box or whatever to say, no, this should be a TV series or whatever. And so it actually just restructures it as if, hey, well, this would be an act, and this would be a
that could actually come in really handy.
It does it, yeah. And so it actually lets you visualize your story as if it were a screenplay. And it's not the same as if it were a book, right? If it's a 500-page book, it's going to be a 150-page screenplay, maybe, or 200-page screenplay, and it's going to have a lot of stuff that's focused on in the book that won't be focused on in the screenplay. But it does that first. That's sort of how it breaks it down, so that all the rest of the stuff can run on as if it's a screenplay. So it first does this reimagining of the book as a screenplay, essentially.
There's a lot of we have a lot of questions.
How is your voice and IP protected from being used for other people's work? Do we have
Yeah.
some stopgap where work is not able to be used all around as source material for the work? Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
not.
we've established this earlier, right?
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah,
that, right? Which is that it's not being used to train the AI.
Yeah,
Right.
we completely, everything's isolated. It's your own private stuff. It's not used to train. It's not, there's no database of, oh, well, here's are the, scripts tend to have this. And we look at, we don't do that.
Right. That's what we do.
Right.
That's what we do in
Yeah.
our heads.
Yes.
I know that's what I do.
Phil wants to know, what are the original sources for the AI material? Drama theory, other screenplays?
Yeah, so we are very clear on this. We did not invent any of the AI. We are using all the models out there from OpenAI and Google and Anthropic and all these big companies. So source material is literally, like you said, the internet and more, right? It's all these books, it's all these everythings that has ever existed. And I would say at this point, the source material isn't really screenplays, it's human feelings about stories. It's not even stories, it's human feelings about stories. And so the source material is just how humans relate to storytelling, relate to other humans, relate to characters. And that is a very broad way to look at screenplays, because screenplays are just an example of how to tell a story. And some of the best screenplays aren't traditional screenplays. They're something that people make that's sort of artistic in some different way, because that writer understood the way a human relates to another, character or plot or whatever. So yeah, source is very broad.
All right. I am seeing a lot of repetitive questions,
Right.
so hopefully people are getting the answers that they want. And I know that sometimes people are coming in late, so they don't know. But you can always watch this again. It's going to be on the page. We're also streaming live to YouTube. If anybody there
I didn't know that.
I know I forgot to say. So if anybody's watching on YouTube, what's up?
Can you pass out the different components of the service? For example, can you take out the video and the characters to post on social media?
So yeah, actually we have a cool feature where it's not completely exposed yet, but we have it and we'll figure out how to expose it, where you can actually create your own page that is custom, and it creates a special link to that page. So you could just have the synopsis, and you get this, like if you're technical, it's an iframe, puts an iframe. And so if you just want to drop in a link just to the synopsis and have a preview or whatever, it doesn't have sidebar or banners or anything, you can do that. You can say just the pitch, not just the character images, but just the characters. You can do that. And then if you wanted just the character image, you just right click on the image, save, download to your computer, and upload it wherever you want.
Right. Somebody really hates you, Guy. They wrote, Guy cannot answer IP copyright. Seems that more homework is needed. Maybe that's not geared toward you.
Well, no, I want to comment.
No, we didn't. It's just we didn't get to the question. That's all. Just chill, people.
No, we actually did. So someone else actually answered this really good,
yeah.
which is we can't answer it because it's not settled yet, because there's lawsuits against OpenAI. Someone wrote that up, and so we're not the people touching the source material. We're using it, so we're not the ones who get to decide. Is why I can't answer it, because it's an unanswered question. True.
Yeah, this is all brand new. So all these things are going to be worked out. This is what happens when there's new technology, and then all of a sudden, all of these other issues come up, and then it's we need to create laws. This happened, by the way, at the very, very beginning. At the very, very beginning of film, filmmakers were taking books written by authors and just adapting them into films. And the famous story is that it was Ben-Hur. It was the wife of the author of Ben-Hur who sued and said, you just can't take, my dead husband's book and just turn it into a movie and profit off it. Like, are you guys smoking crack? That's exactly what she said, by the way. And then as a result, copyright laws in film were created. So this is sort of where, this is where we're at now, because it's all brand new.
Does it do budgets as per scenes? Do you?
Okay. I'll talk about budget, because we actually do it. I said earlier which one of my least favorite paths was. Now I'm going to say the real least favorite path is budget, because it's not that useful. It does do it. It kind of like estimates, hey, you got some props here. You got some, that looks like an expensive sci-fi moment, and it kind of guesses. It's not terrible, but it's not as good as even an intelligent human who's never budgeted before can do a better job than it can on that. That one's going to be improved, though. We have plans to improve the budget, because a writer shouldn't be writing with budget in mind. But at some point it matters. At some point you realize this script isn't going to be, a blockbuster, so I better be able to film it for 5 million or 1 million or whatever. And then it starts to matter. And I think it's helpful to just, we do a little bit of analysis and more to come on that one.
Right. By the way, I'm not referring to the 1959 Ben-Hur. I'm referring to the original one starring Francis X. Bushman, made in the 1920s.
I did not know that movie.
It's very good. It's in fact, you can see it on YouTube. It's really great. I got to tell you, sometimes you watch those old silent movies, which you think are boring or suck, and they're amazingly entertaining. You can understand why they were so popular. Anyway, how about copyright infringement laws in EU if someone used WriterDuet to write? Well, people are going crazy about copyright.
Yeah.
Right. She also wants to know, is copyright possible if I use your software? I live in France.
Yeah, so actually EU. I'm not. By the way, I'm really not an expert in copyright law in EU. I'm a little better in the US, but not in EU. I do know that EU is actually more permissive on copyright work. There was some lawsuit where they said you could copyright AI generated stuff. So yes, nothing about what we're doing should be a final product anyway, because we're not writing your script for you. We're just giving you analysis. And so I would personally say whether or not it's copyrightable is almost irrelevant. It's just a thing. Like if someone else literally stole your exact pitch but didn't write your screenplay, the pitch is useless because there's no screenplay. Yours is the screenplay that does it. So I don't think. Yeah.
So a lot of people are worried about this. So now I sent you my scripts to read. You did the analysis. You sent it back to me. They're worried that you will then use my script as basis for something else to review someone else's, and it somehow gets absorbed.
He's already covered this like 50,000 times. People, yeah, I know.
Yes.
I don't know what it is. Maybe something. Maybe nobody listens. Maybe people just
paranoia.
Maybe people just turned the volume all the way down, and maybe when Guy smiles or something, they go okay, and then they lift it up. I don't know what's going on. But why didn't you say it one more time, Guy?
Right.
Explicitly in our terms of use, we do not train on any of your content. Your content is private to you and anyone you choose to share it with. It's private by default. You have to click a button to say, public, and then public doesn't actually mean public. It means public with this very long URL that no one can guess. So only people you hand that specific URL to can see it. So very, very protected.
Somebody is saying, what guarantee does Guy provide to not have my screenplays become part of the AI? By the way, most of your scripts suck. The fucking AI is going to be regurgitating that bullshit. Give me a goddamn break. Jesus H. Sorry. Oh my Lord. I've never seen people so paranoid. Oh my God. But all right. But I'm taking it seriously. What guarantee? What kind of guarantee are you going to give them? Your firstborn, if you're lying, like what?
They can have this sweater and this.
Everyone gets a sweater.
Genuinely, I shouldn't make light of it because it is a serious question, and
it is a serious question.
It's
but we've answered it 80 trillion times. That's how serious it is.
And the answer is I'm not going to certainly advocate for this, but if we violate our terms of use, that is a legal problem. So I'm not advocating to have it, so we're not going to do it. But you can't violate your terms of use and not get away with it. So we're not doing that. It would be bad. And there are laws. This is a country of some good laws and some not good laws. And these are good ones that say, we can't use your stuff for things we tell you we're not going to use it for.
Right. And by the way, Guy is truly one of the good guys. Well, who names their kid Guy?
My mom, the one and only.
Come on, what's going on here? Oh my word! But anyway,
that said, it's an easy name to remember. Hey, Guy.
It is. Yeah, exactly right. So what else? Let's see.
Oh, someone says studios will not accept AI generated material. So I wonder if use of this AI tool, will this also stop you from reselling your work if you don't?
Yeah, no, because actually, first of all, I've never heard studios will not accept AI generated material. Maybe that's a very specific in some studios saying that, but
what does that mean, by the way?
I can comment on that. Maybe I do know what it is. So AI generated material in the US more or less can't be copyrighted because of the thing we talked about. So in that sense, they won't accept a screenplay that is uncopyrightable, because what's the good of it to them? They're not going to pay you some money for something that someone else can then take for free. So copyright does matter to them, but not about a synopsis and not about a pitch, because the synopsis and the pitch aren't a thing. So submitting material like a pitch or whatever that's AI generated, I'm never heard of that being a problem. A screenplay, they wouldn't want that if it were AI generated.
And this is not writing screenplays.
Correct.
No.
That's why I joke about it. Like, the reason you can trust that, I'm at least for this foreseeable human future, who knows what 5 years from now or whatever, but I'm not interested in writing screenplays. We have WriterDuet. I'm very interested in humans writing screenplays. I'm very interested, and kind of to that point, I'll just say one of the reasons I'm doing this is because I think eventually, and I don't know when this is, 5-10 years maybe, AI will be a lot better, and it will be capable of writing better screenplays than it is today, and maybe better in some cases than some professional writers currently. Honestly, I think it will eventually get to that point. My goal is to make the writers so much better at writing, the human writers, because they have these analysis tools and all these things, that the future human writer is better than the future AI writer. So we can keep amping humans up to the point that they're irreplaceable, because they're always using the technology to become even better than the technology without the human. If humans just ignore the technology, then, you know, it's inevitable that the technology keeps improving and humans aren't getting any smarter. Like,
Right.
I don't know, maybe we're getting stupider.
Somebody, I want to give the person their platform. They said, I'm just saying, doesn't it become automatically part of the database?
No, there is literally a database that we never look at. Like, none of our AI analysis looks at that database. That is a public-facing data that has a lot of security rules on it that say only you and the people you share with or whatever can use it. So no, we are not. And again, to Chris's first point, I'm not saying your script personally is bad, but I have no interest in the AI learning from the screenplays that are submitted. I don't think that would make the AI any smarter.
Oh, man. Let me tell you. That was a lot more piercing than anything I said here.
And someone else said, just to make sure, what you're offering is a service, not software.
It's a platform. It's software that runs in the cloud, just like WriterDuet. So, you know, it's in the cloud just for the basis of it's easier to click on a website than download a piece of software.
All right. So there's still a couple more comments. Let me see. I'll bet it's going to be about stealing and copywriting. Let me see. All right.
And are you like, as you go, like, you know, when I give you feedback, and I'll send you some thoughts I had on just the feedback I got from my scripts, which I actually enjoyed, you know, and I wish I could put that video out because, you know, that's an Oscar-winning thing for me. No,
you can.
But you will then take that feedback and sort of make tweaks and stuff to your.
Yeah. So I kind of process-wise, we're not developing the AI itself. We're not training the AI itself. So we don't actually do that. What we do is there's a lot of human intelligence and programming that learns how to ask better questions and how to use the answers from one AI phase to better inform another AI phase. And so whenever something goes wrong and the person explicitly shares it with me, because I'm not going to I don't want to look at other people's stuff. But if it's specifically shared, they point out a problem, we can kind of trace back what caused that problem, like what caused a duplicate sentence or what caused an incorrect log line or something like that. And usually, again, this is maybe a difference between us and the other software. Some other software, they can't actually fix it because it is fundamental to, well, just using whatever the AI says. We are using a chain of AI things, and usually in the chain, you can see where it went off and you can in some way fix it. So yeah, I really super appreciate the feedback, because the version that you see today is not the version from 6 months from now. So hopefully it's a lot better based on this feedback. So
everybody is curious about where they can find this and what the discount code is.
All right. So website is screenplayiq.com. If you can't remember that, I'll put it down, type it somewhere.
I should be able to do that. Let me see if I can do that.
Screenplayiq.com. I'll write it here right now.
Yeah, thank you.
But I can create a banner here. How do I do this? Let me see. www.screenplayiq.com.
Someone else asked, does a human view the feedback? Does a human view the feedback, or is it all automated?
All automated. So no human intervention. It's all going straight from, you put it in, it takes some amount of time depending what you choose, and you have excuse me, the analysis on your site, and it's all yours and all private to you. And just mention the discount code since it's important. It is
what is it? Let's see. I'm going to write it
pitch
down.
50. I think all caps. I think that matters.
Pitch
PIT
50. Oh,
Yeah. And so the way purchasing works, a little weird, and maybe we'll change this at some point, but you can buy basically chunks of these tokens, and the tokens kind of describe. I would highly recommend everyone buy the one that costs $90. So it only costs $45 for you, and you'll get enough to do pretty much everything you'd want. And if you need more, you buy 2 of the $90 ones if you want. And there's also like a lot of other ones, but that's the main plan. Yeah. And then I think if you do that for, like, I genuinely mean this, if you do that and you spend your $45 and you don't think it was worth $45, you email me and I'll give it back to you. So, like,
don't say that.
I will. No, if you didn't get the value. Like,
I told you he's a nice guy.
Yeah. So we like this is early days, honestly, and it has room to improve. But I think super appreciate you guys trying it and giving the feedback. Same for everyone here. If anyone, please don't Facebook me. You can Facebook me, but my email is not that hard. Actually, I'll do this. I usually would give my personal email. You can figure it out. It's based on my name. But I really want you to just email help@writerduet.com if you have anything, and we'll make it right, whatever that is. If it's, hey, the analysis was wrong in this way and you want to share your script with us, we'll figure out why it went wrong and we'll improve it. And if you don't like what it did, tell us that too. And we'll make sure that you have a great experience.
People are asking, well, at least one person is, and I don't really understand it either. Tokens?
Oh, yeah. I'll tell you why we do it this way. So it's really annoying to constantly reprocess your credit card every time. I'd like to add this on, run it. I'd like to add this on. So we don't charge you $4 and then $14 more or whatever. We don't do that. So instead, you buy this like chunk of tokens, and the tokens are effectively, you can paraphrase them to say each token is basically a penny, but because you get the discount, you're only paying like 0.5 pennies to get 1 penny worth of tokens, and then you use the token. So it's basically a way of making it so we don't run your credit card 100 times.
It's kind of like the way they used to do the arcades in the old days, like you buy tokens or something.
Is there an expiration date on the pitch 50 code?
Yeah. I don't think, I didn't put one in. So if you guys get real mean to me at some point, I'm turning it off. But
there's that one guy here who hates you. I think you should, I don't think that you should program him out or something.
Yeah. No, I think actually there's a joke. Not a joke, but someone said I'm an AI convert after this. And I hope that is a lot of people's experience, because AI isn't anything. It's just technology. It doesn't care. The AI doesn't care about, if you use it or not. It's just, are you going to get a better experience because you use it? And I hope everyone does in some way, like whether it's us or something else. But
let's just remember that the things that we spoke about today are specific to Screenplay IQ, correct? Yeah. Because, I don't want to sit here and tell people that Screenplay IQ doesn't train off of our scripts, and then they assume that Greenlight doesn't train off their scripts or somebody else doesn't. We're really talking specifically about your service, correct?
Yeah, I can only speak to ours. I think with everyone, if there were another service you wanted, I would check those things, terms of use or whatever. But like, I think that generally, if you're using one, I think you should go in with a very specific intention. Like, what are you going to get out of it? And that what you get out of it shouldn't be just an opinion, whatever that opinion is. And it's same for a reader. Like, why are you submitting to X readers coverage service just to say, I like to know what random person 39 on the internet thinks of my script? Like, well, so what they think of it? So like going into all these with an intention where you're going to get the value back out of it is what I think everyone should do for AI or human readers in general.
All right. Will it read and evaluate a pitch deck created by Gamma?
No, we don't accept anything except, screenplays or novels, just because we don't want to be tricked. And so the pitch, we're generating a pitch that sort of can be a little tricky, right? It can say, this is, a deep moving story. Wait, maybe it's not really deep and moving, who knows? But we don't want our AI to just say what you say about your story and assume that's true. We want to take your story, break it apart our way, and reconstruct it to be useful. Because just taking a pitch, like, you can say, this is a heartfelt story about blah, blah. And the AI will say, oh, cool, it's a heartfelt story. It'll trust you. And we have to do that.
All right, interesting. I did have a question, but then I forgot it. In and out of my head. Anything else, Ramesh?
Not the expiration date.
Oh,
Go ahead.
I have one more, and I
Yeah,
didn't think
go
of
ahead.
how we were going to do this. I didn't think of physics, but I'm going to give 3 people
Oh.
free tokens who are on this thing. Everyone just comes across as like Facebook user, or some people have names here. So
I
don't
know,
who the
I know,
people
I know.
are. Do we have a good way we can give away to 3 people who are actually on the call and ideally were, somewhat participating, whatever that means?
Yes, Ramesh.
Yeah, yes, we can do it. I can do the thing I do where I go and just
Okay.
Yeah.
tap on a name. So I'll pick 3.
You'll pick
Okay, I
3
love
and
that.
tell me who, and I'll
Right. I just sort of.
And then you're
go
going to
through-
give them free tokens?
Yeah, I'm going to give 7,500 tokens, which is enough that you can do almost everything you want on a normal length script.
Cool.
It's slightly less than the $90/$45 for you guys one, just because that's the minimum number you can get something useful out of for a feature length.
Wow. Okay, good. That's very generous. He's a generous guy.
Yeah, someone wants to know novels of any length and only fiction, or like can someone submit a biography or
It would work. A biography would be fine. It has to have a story, right? If you're giving a math textbook, it's not going to be very useful. Like the third act of the math textbook concludes with A = B squared.
Well,
right?
I don't know because Charlie Kaufman was able to pull that off with the Orchid Thief, right? Remember?
Oh,
right,
And,
exactly.
Adaptation.
So maybe.
But maybe you need a human to do that.
Yeah. Anything that has a story, anything that has a clear like characters, premise, reason it exists, conclusion, I think it'll do a pretty good job on it. And any length works. I say that knowing that if someone puts in a 3,000-page book and it doesn't work, I'm not going to apologize to them. I'm going to apologize to their, the hard drive for writing that 3,000 words. So, within reason.
What's the turnaround?
It depends. So the cheapest, fastest stuff usually I think is like 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes, because it's relatively light analysis. And then more you go, the longer each thing takes because they're getting more and more deep. If you did like the full suite, everything up to pitch, probably not table read is the slowest one because that one's doing a lot of images, a lot of voice stuff. But everything up to table read might be a few hours on average for a feature. And the reason it takes so long, and some don't take that long, is because it's spending the whole time working. Like it's like you hired a very persistent intern to very, very quickly just ask a million questions and talk about your script. And the intern also happens to have almost infinite knowledge about things in the universe, so it's pretty smart intern.
Right. And you're using they are submitting a PDF, correct? So it's it's a PDF. Okay.
Right,
PDF's
so
the
they
best
can-
format. Yeah, we accept other stuff too, like a file draft or WriterDuet or whatever document. But the reason PDF's nice is it's a one-to-one page map, so we know page 1, page 2, page 3.
And someone else wanted to know. She said, by the way, AI can be very prudish, flagging more sex scenes. How do you handle that?
Yeah, as much as I've tried, I don't think I've put any pornos or anything in it yet. I haven't noticed any problems.
Ramesh has a few scripts like that.
Exactly.
So I don't think you'll get too much trouble there. I don't know, to be honest, where the limit is. Like at some point, if it's something like, I'm gonna not say the words, but if it's something truly objectionable by like human standards rather than by prudish standards, then it might get flagged. But generally, I think everything goes through. And again, it has no opinions about is this a good scene or a bad scene. It just tells you here's what happened, and here's the impact it had on the characters, here's the impact it had on the plot, and more or less it'll let you do whatever you want. Now, generating images in the pitch for it, I can tell you for a fact those will not generate. We can't. No sexy photos come out of the AIs. So that might be the one limitation.
Can they see on your website? Can they see a sample of this? So like is like Palm Springs up there, for example, or?
There are a few samples up there.
Okay.
Yeah, there are a few on the front page of the website.
Okay,
not
good.
the full. I don't think they did the pitch because honestly, like with some stuff, especially, well, I won't get into it, but yeah, we just do a light version of a few things, and then you can see the different levels. And if you want a full one, just hit me up.
All right, cool. Guy, why don't you stay on? And because I just want to say a few words to you. And Ramesh, thank you. Thank you for your time today. Guy, thank you.
Yep.
We really appreciate you coming on, explaining things to us. I certainly feel like I have a little bit of a better understanding about, at the very least, what it is that you're doing in your AI. And yeah, I think that there's a lot of kind of cool, helpful stuff in there. Again, yeah, I say it's like Cliff Notes. And and teachers use Cliff Notes and students use Cliff Notes, but it really does help, I think, the writer articulate, because so many writers have a hard time just pitching in general. And here, there's so much information in there that a writer could just pull out and create a pitch from it. So then if they were to do the virtual pitch fest, or they were going to sit in a room with somebody. So it does a lot of that work,
Yeah.
I think.
But I really encourage people to also share with their friends, because like the first group of people who cares are the people who care about you, not some random person on at some office. Like, so I think sharing your friends, and if they get excited by it, see where it goes. Like there's a level of mob mentality that happens. A lot of successful, I don't know, there's one story where this guy posted a script. It was really funny, probably unmakeable, but it was really funny. It got spread all over the internet because it was just a cool script. And I think that can start happening a lot more frequently if it's not 120 pages you have to read to know it's cool. And so I hope that it becomes like a little bit of a social experiment where we see if we can amplify good stories.
Excellent. So it is screenplayiq.com. And for inside pitchers, you get 50% off. That is very generous. 50 pitch 50 is the
discount code.
Thank you, discount code. And Ramesh is going to use his incredibly sophisticated system to hang on. Okay, somebody can't find where to enter the promo code.
That is a funny thing. Okay, I'll tell you what. I don't know the answer to that question off the top of my head. So
okay, it's a conspiracy. It's a conspiracy.
If you give me like 10 minutes after I get this call, I will find the answer to that for you.
Okay.
And if you happen to be so anxious that you purchase, you immediately, I will give my email address, but I won't give my email address, but it's, if you're clever, my name is Guy and my company's WriterDuet. And if you can put those together and figure it out.
Like Guy at WriterDuet, maybe?
That's one idea. It's
okay.
An idea.
Okay.
One of the many ideas out there.
Okay.
If you email me and if you had one, I'll 45 you back. So no problem if anyone is so anxious. I'd be excited.
Okay. Yes, she is anxious. She's very anxious. So, all right. So we won't keep you on too long after this guy, because you got to go get to that promo code thing. But thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We hope that we assuaged some of your fears. And we really do love WriterDuet. We really do love Guy. And we love all of you, too. I'm sorry that I yelled at some of you. But
I'm sorry I said your scripts. I didn't mean to imply your scripts weren't good. I don't mean that. I think your scripts are all lovely.
No, that's really not what you meant. It was very clear. But at any rate, we'll see everybody next time. And come on, visit the group, participate. Let's be there for each other. All right. See ya.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.